Malnutrition. It's common and serious in dialysis patients. It's also an easily overlooked struggle for them. But the consequences are severe. Malnutrition leads to poor quality of life, weakened immunity, higher risk of death. Joining us to explain the causes of malnutrition and the remedial efforts undertaken for dialysis patients is Associate Professor Jason Choo, Medical Director of the National Kidney Foundation. Prof. Jason, welcome to the show. First of all, why is malnutrition a growing concern in dialysis care here? And what does it mean for patients who are trying to get stronger and recover?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So, just to highlight, we have at least 500,000 chronic kidney disease patients in Singapore, and of which 9,000 patients are actually on dialysis. And dialysis is a therapy whereby patients actually lose protein. Because of that, malnutrition can easily happen in dialysis patients. And we also know that in patients who are malnourished, they actually have poor outcomes in terms of whether or not in their functional status, their hospitalization, or even death. So, based on our NCAF data, actually, so we have 20%. So patients who have malnutrition have at least 20% risk of hospitalization. So it is really a problem. And because the population is aging, the dialysis patients are also coming in at an older age. And so because of that, malnutrition becomes an issue.
And as you get older, protein is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, dialysis diets, speaking of protein, it's really a very hard balancing act because you've got to cut back on salt and potassium, phosphorus, fluids. Does that, plus the fact that you don't want to eat after dialysis, does that make it harder for patients to, get that proteins, get that calories? And how do you strike a balance between, what is safe and what is sufficient?
Yeah, I just want to state that, actually patients and their caregivers actually have it hard when it comes to nutrition. And because of this need to balance, and so most patients, when you tell them you cannot take foods that are high in potassium, phosphorus, they actually pull back and go like, oh, I don't want to eat anything. And so that's the problem. So we generally say that they really need to up their ante with regards to protein intake and with regards to calories, because this is something that's important for the body. So protein intake is important for cell function, and it's very important for the general well-being of the patient.
Yeah, it's hard, I imagine, as you mentioned, for the caregivers as well. But, when it comes to which kind of patients tend to be the most vulnerable to malnutrition, is it the demographic that's older or people with limited support at home, for example, who have to fend for themselves when it comes to food? And what are the red flags that you look out for?
Yeah, so you're quite right. The elderly patient, the average elderly patient is most at risk. But not all elderly patients are the same, and there are frail patients who can be young, but also frail patients who are old. And so the ones that we are most concerned about are those who have got multiple medical issues. So for example, diabetes, high blood pressure, and for which 2/3 of our patients actually have diabetes, and 95% have high blood pressure. And so these patients, and especially if their support is not as good and they have poor accessibility to good, nutritious food, they are the ones who provide us with a red flag. And those are the ones that we would concentrate on to make sure that food is accessible. And if there's a cause to the malnutrition, we correct that, like poor dentition, swallowing problems. So we have a holistic approach to all these problems that patients encounter.
That's interesting. You have to be quite an investigator as well.
Yes, you are quite right. Yes.
Okay, so what does the NKF do in that case when a patient is flagged to you? Can you walk us through the support process from how you screen them, plan their diets for them perhaps, and even supplements, meal guidance, things like that?
So at NKF, we take a very integrated approach, a very holistic approach. So on a regular basis, the nurses and doctors actually go through their medical notes and go through their biochemistries and their blood tests to actually see whether or not there needs to be changes in the treatment plan through their dialysis. Yeah? In addition to that, we have 12 dietitians who go around our 40+ centers to actually provide targeted support, provide education, provide workshops, and all that for patients. Yeah. So we have two very signature programs whereby we provide them with protein milk supplements. Yeah, to provide them with these patients who are at risk of malnutrition or malnourished to improve their protein intake. In addition, we also have this. We have also initiated this supermarket tour whereby we bring patients to help them identify what sort of foods are good. Yeah, and because it's not so easy, and in general, processed foods are bad. But
So I like that. Very practical tips whereby you almost handhold them, but then after that, they feel more confident. Sadly, we've run out of time. I do want to thank you for stopping by and speaking with us. I was speaking with Associate Professor Jason Choo from the National Kidney Foundation here.